knew something was wrong the moment I walked into the office. There was a tension in the air, a stiffness that hadn't been there before. People glanced up from their desks, then quickly looked away. At first, I thought maybe there was a surprise audit or a last-minute client emergency. Until I saw it. A woman I didn't recognize was sitting at my desk. My chair, my computer, my personal photos, shoved to the side like clutter. I stood there for a second, blinking, wondering if maybe I had stepped into the wrong universe. But no. There was my nameplate, thrown upside down in a box under the desk. My heart dropped into my stomach. Before I could even move, my manager, Eric, materialized beside me. Clipboard in hand, smile tight and professional. "Attendance at mandatory team-building events is a critical part of our culture," he said without even greeting me. "Your absence at Friday's happy hour showed a lack of team alignment. Effective immediately, your position has been reassigned." That was it. No mention of the 5 years I had spent leading every major project. No mention of the nights I stayed behind long after the lights were out. No mention of the promotions I had turned down to keep my team stable. Just a happy hour. One evening I missed because I had to help my sister move across town, because for once I had put my family ahead of my job. I swallowed hard, feeling every eye in the office burning into me. I wanted to scream, to demand an explanation, to throw that clipboard across the room. But I didn't. Instead, I nodded, tight and calm, as if he hadn't just stabbed me through the heart. I picked up the box that held my career and walked out of the office without a word. What Eric didn't realize was that he hadn't just replaced me. He had started a chain reaction that would tear his whole department apart, piece by piece. Never planned to stay at Grayson Solutions for more than a couple of years. When I joined fresh out of grad school, it was supposed to be a stepping stone, a place to gain experience before moving on to bigger dreams. But life has a funny way of changing plans. Somewhere between late nights, impossible deadlines, and impossible projects, I stayed. I stayed when the company restructured. I stayed when my department shrank from 30 employees down to 12. I stayed through leadership changes, budget cuts, and project overhauls. Because my team mattered to me. Because I believed loyalty meant something. In 5 years, I wasn't just an employee. I became the anchor. The person leadership called when a client was ready to walk away. The one who stayed behind after office parties to reset the chairs and clean up the empty cups. The one who trained the interns, mentored the new hires, soothed angry clients at midnight. The one who made sure things didn't fall apart when everything else felt like it would. I built teams from scratch. I turned failing projects into success stories. I led the turnaround of our entire Western operations branch, a move that pulled us out of a financial nosedive and brought record profits. Not that it came without sacrifice. Family vacations canceled, birthdays missed, late-night dinners, eaten over spreadsheets instead of at home with the people who loved me. But I told myself it was worth it. That loyalty would be recognized eventually. That my work ethic, my dedication, my sacrifices, they would be seen. Every employee review I had was stellar. Rockstar performer. Essential to team success. Future leadership material. I wasn't flashy. I didn't play office politics. I just did my job and did it well. When my sister's graduation fell on the same weekend as a client review, I missed it. When my best friend got married out of state, I attended the rehearsal dinner via FaceTime from a conference room. When my own health started to crack under the pressure, I brushed it off. Just a rough patch, I told myself. It's temporary. Because loyalty meant something. Because hard work spoke louder than anything else. Because if you were indispensable, they couldn't just replace you. At least, that's what I believed. Until the day they showed me how wrong I was. That Monday morning should have been like any other. I got up before sunrise, ironed my best blouse, packed my planner, and even stopped for coffee. 2 extra cups for my team. After all, we had just wrapped a major milestone. The Crossbridge project, the one nobody thought would succeed, had closed early and under budget. I was proud. We all were. But when I stepped off the elevator, I felt it immediately. A shift. The buzz of early morning energy was missing. Coworkers smiled politely, but their eyes darted away, guilty. Conversations died mid-sentence when I walked past. Then I saw it. My desk, or rather, what used to be my desk. A woman I had never seen. Before sat in my chair, unpacking a box of personal items. My framed team photos, my cactus plant, the Best Mentor award, all shoved haphazardly into a crate on the floor. For a moment, I just stood there, frozen, confused, embarrassed. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe IT had reassigned computers. Maybe Grace? I turned to see Eric, my manager, approaching with a clipboard tucked under his arm. He wore the strained, too-practiced smile of someone about to deliver bad news they had already convinced themselves was justified. "Can we speak for a moment?" he asked, already gesturing toward the small conference room. Inside, he didn't ask me to sit, didn't offer water, just handed me a printed memo. Thin, clinical. Effective immediately, Grace Whitmore is relieved of her duties as senior project manager due to failure to meet team culture expectations. This decision is final and non-negotiable. I stared at it, unblinking. Failure to meet team culture expectations? I repeated, my voice surprisingly calm. Eric cleared his throat. Attendance at team-building events is mandatory. Your absence from Friday's happy hour sent the wrong message to leadership about your commitment to the company culture. A happy hour. One missed happy hour, because I had chosen, for once, to help my sister move into her first apartment. Because after 5 years of pouring my soul into this company, I thought I had earned enough trust to miss one event. Apparently I was wrong. This isn't personal, Eric added, as if that made it better. It's about maintaining consistent values across the team. I looked at him. This man I had worked under, defended to others, trusted to notice more than just surface appearances. And I realized he didn't see me at all. 5 years of loyalty, erased over one missed drink. I placed the memo on the table carefully, as if touching it too hard might make the absurdity of it all explode. Understood, I said simply. Eric blinked, as if he had expected an argument. Begging. Tears. Something to make him feel important. Instead, I straightened my shoulders, walked out of the conference room, and began packing the few remnants of my career into the box sitting on the floor. No one stopped me. No one said anything, until Jordan from finance appeared, hovering nervously. Grace? What's happening? He asked in a low voice. I gave him a small, sad smile. Apparently, I said, wrapping my cactus in a scarf, missing a happy hour means you're no longer part of the team. His mouth opened in disbelief, but no words came out. A few desks over, I saw Anna, my old intern now turned junior coordinator, typing furiously. Her hands trembling slightly as she stole glances toward me. The loyalty in her eyes, the confusion, the anger. It said everything the office wouldn't dare say aloud. As I taped my box shut, Eric walked by again, offering a curt nod. The new woman in my seat, the one who hadn't even glanced up during the whole scene, kept typing away. I wasn't even a memory to them. I was just gone. I should have been furious. I should have thrown something, shouted something, made them see what they were losing. But instead, I thought about something my mother used to tell me. When people show you who they are, believe them the first time. I wasn't going to beg for respect that should have been freely given. I wasn't going to stay where I was tolerated, not celebrated. By the time I walked out of Grayson Solutions for the last time, the sun had climbed higher, flooding the parking lot in warm, indifferent light. The same sun that had witnessed me, arriving before everyone else for years. The same sun that had seen me leave long after most had gone home. Today, it bore silent witness as I carried a single box of memories to my car and closed the door on a chapter I had given so much of myself to. But this wasn't the end. Not even close. They thought they were discarding me, but what they had really done was set me free. The first week after leaving Grayson Solutions was the hardest. For 5 years, my identity had been tied to that place, to those projects, that team, that endless race to prove I mattered. Now, it was just me, and a box of personal items shoved into the corner of my tiny apartment. Mornings felt strange. No rush to beat traffic, no client calls at 7 a.m., no meetings to prep for. Just an aching, empty silence that dragged across the hours. At first, I did what anyone might do. I refreshed my email obsessively, half expecting, half hoping someone would realize a mistake had been made. A call from Eric, a message from HR, an apology, something. But the inbox stayed quiet, and the silence spoke volumes. There were moments I doubted everything. Had I really mattered at all? Was I just as disposable as that email made me feel? Those were dark days. The kind where the ache in your chest isn't sharp. It's dull, constant, exhausting. The kind where getting out of bed feels heavier than moving mountains. But somewhere in that darkness, something small and stubborn began to stir. Not rage, not bitterness. Something quieter, something stronger. Resolve. Didn't belong to Grayson Solutions anymore. But my skills, my dedication, my work ethic, those were mine. They had always been mine. I had built teams, launched projects, saved contracts, not because they told me to, but because that's who I was. And that wasn't something they could take from me. I dusted off my old resume. For the first time in years, I listed out every accomplishment, every milestone, every moment I had turned chaos into success. And as the words filled the page, a strange feeling crept in. Pride. Not the desperate kind, clawing for validation, but the quiet kind that whispered, "You were more than enough. They just weren't the right ones to see it." I signed up for webinars, updated my LinkedIn profile, reached out to contacts I had been too busy to maintain when I was buried in endless work, had coffee chats with old colleagues, mentors, people who remembered me not just for what I produced, but for how I led. Slowly, the days stopped feeling so empty. Slowly, my mornings became filled again. This time, not with obligations, but with possibilities. One morning, about 3 weeks after everything fell apart, my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. "Hi, Grace. This is Elena Torres from Horizon Consulting. I was referred to you by a former client. Said you saved their Westbridge expansion project 2 years ago. We'd love to discuss some opportunities if you're open to it." For a moment, I just sat there, stunned. Someone remembered. Someone saw. "Yes," I said finally, my voice steady for the first time in weeks. "I'd be happy to talk." It wasn't a full-time offer, not yet. But it was a start. Contract work, helping companies stabilize their operations, rework failing projects, train leadership teams. All the things I had been doing for years without recognition. And this time, I would set the terms. I would choose who I worked with. I would never again tie my worth to someone else's approval. By the end of that first month, I had 3 steady clients. By the end of the second, I had to start turning down offers, not because I was bitter, not because I needed revenge, but because I finally understood, I didn't have to prove my value to anyone. Grayson Solutions had thought they were replacing a name on a payroll sheet. They hadn't realized they were letting go of the steady hands that had kept their biggest successes afloat, and soon, very soon, they were going to feel the difference. I didn't plan revenge. I didn't need to. Success has a way of speaking louder than anything else. As the months passed, my consulting work grew faster than I ever expected. Clients didn't just trickle in, they poured in. Word spread quietly through the industry. Grace Whitmore doesn't just manage projects, she saves companies. Meanwhile, small whispers about Grayson Solutions started reaching me. First, a few missed deadlines. Then, a major client, one I had nurtured personally, pulled their contract. I didn't gloat. I didn't call anyone to brag. But inside, a small, steady part of me thought, "You're feeling my absence." By the 4th month, things got interesting. One afternoon, while reviewing a new client proposal, my phone buzzed again. An email. Subject: Line: Potential opportunity at Grayson Solutions. I blinked, opened it. Eric. After everything, he had the audacity to reach out. "Hi, Grace," it began. "I hope this message finds you well. We're experiencing some staffing challenges and would love to discuss opportunities for collaboration. Would you be available for a conversation?" Staffing challenges. They couldn't even say it plainly. "We're struggling without you." I stared at the email for a long moment. Then, smiling softly to myself, I archived it. No reply. No anger. No drama, just silence. Because sometimes, the best answer is no answer at all. It didn't stop there. A week later, Anna, the intern-turned-coordinator who had looked so heartbroken the day I left, called me. "Grace," she said, her voice shaking. "Things have gotten so bad. Eric's panicking, management's scrambling to fix projects that were perfectly fine before. They're asking people to work weekends, no bonuses, no raises." I listened quietly, my heart heavy, but steady. I didn't enjoy their downfall, but I couldn't deny feeling a sharp, clean satisfaction. They hadn't fired a replaceable employee. They had severed their foundation, and now the cracks were spreading faster than they could patch. 2 months later, I landed the biggest project of my career, a complete operational overhaul for Horizon Industries, a client Grayson Solutions had been courting for years without success. The same client they had once assigned me to support, while someone else took the credit. Now, I was the face they trusted. Now, I was the name on the contract. The day I walked into Horizon's glass-walled conference room to sign the final deal, I passed a framed photo of Grayson's senior leadership team, a relic from the days when they thought they ruled the industry. I didn't flinch. I didn't gloat. I simply smiled, signed the contract, and walked out, knowing I had just secured a future they would never be part of. At a networking event a few weeks later, I ran into an old colleague, someone still hanging on at Grayson Solutions. The moment he saw me, he shook his head, laughing under his breath. "You wouldn't believe the mess, Grace," he said. "Half the senior team is gone. Eric's under review. Clients are walking. Projects are bleeding money. They're blaming everyone, but themselves." I just smiled and sipped my drink. Because I knew. Because I had lived it. Because I had warned them. Not with words, but with the quiet dignity of leaving. The final twist came quietly. Fittingly, an anonymous industry newsletter I subscribed to, one that reported major leadership changes, carried a small note at the bottom of their Friday edition. Grayson Solutions announces restructuring following major client losses. CEO and several senior leaders resign amid declining revenue. No headlines, no scandals. Just a slow, quiet fall. The kind that starts from within long before anyone outside notices. They didn't collapse because I left. They collapsed because they forgot what real leadership looked like, because they believed appearances mattered more than integrity, because they punished loyalty and rewarded politics. I didn't destroy them. They destroyed themselves. And the best part? I didn't have to lift a single finger. As I walked into my home office that evening, my space, my clients, my future, I paused for a moment, looking at the simple framed quote above my desk. Grow through what you go through. It wasn't just a platitude. It was the truth. Every late night, every disappointment, every betrayal. They hadn't broken me. They had built me. And now, while they scrambled to survive, I was just getting started. It's strange how life works sometimes. One moment, you're standing in a fluorescent-lit office, holding a cardboard box filled with everything you thought defined you. And then somehow, you find yourself here, standing on the rooftop of your own consulting firm, watching the sunset wash the city in gold. The journey between those two moments wasn't easy. It was painful, messy, lonely at times. But standing here now, I wouldn't trade a second of it. Because losing my job wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning. The betrayal, the humiliation, the long silence afterward. They stripped away everything that wasn't real. The need for approval, the fear of disappointing people who never really saw me, the belief that loyalty guaranteed security. What was left was me. Stronger, wiser, steadier. I built something new. Not just a career, but a life that felt like mine. A life where success was measured not by how many hours I sacrificed, but by how fully I showed up for myself and the people who mattered. Sometimes I still think about Grace and Solutions, not with anger, not even with sadness, just perspective. They taught me that appearances aren't the same as culture, that loyalty means nothing to people who only value obedience, that silence in the face of injustice speaks louder than applause after a success. They taught me the kind of leader I never wanted to become. And for that, oddly, I'm grateful. Because without that betrayal, I might have stayed. I might have kept convincing myself that if I just worked harder, stayed later, sacrificed more, someone would finally see me. I might never have learned that I was enough all along, that I didn't need their validation, that the right people, the right clients, the right team would see me clearly without being begged to. As the city lights began to flicker on below, I thought about everyone who had followed me on this journey. Former teammates who believed in me enough to jump without a safety net. Clients who trusted me with their visions and allowed me to help them build something better. Friends and family who reminded me, even in my darkest hours, that my worth was never tied to a company logo. And most of all, I thought about the quiet promise I had made to myself the day I walked out of that office. The promise to never again tie my value to anyone else's short-sightedness. I kept that promise. And it led me here. Not back to where I started, not to the familiar comfort of old patterns, but somewhere new, somewhere better. If you had asked me that morning, standing there, watching a stranger unpack her things at my desk, whether anything good could come from that moment, I would have said no. I would have said it was only heartbreak. But now I know better. Sometimes the best things in life aren't the ones you fight for. They're the ones that find you, after you let go of the things trying to break you. Sometimes being replaced isn't the end. It's the beginning of finding out just how irreplaceable you really are. If you've ever given your all to a place or a person who didn't see your worth, know that you're not alone. I'd love to hear your story. Share it in the comments below, and if this journey resonated with you, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more stories of strength, second chances, and finding your true value.